Alright everyone, welcome back. Apologies, I've been KIA for the last 4 days, but it's Easter bank holiday weekend and so I spent most of my time away from my computer. With that said, I did play enough to get my thoughts and feedback on most of the new stuff added with Phase 2 of the PTS, and I've been able to get further insight into the two major additions added with Season 9. That's the countdown game mode and the expertise system. Today I wanted to tackle what I feel to be the most underwhelming and underperforming addition, and that is the expertise system. It has potential, there's no doubt there, and I'm hopeful between now and the full launch of Season 9 it might better reach that potential, but in its current form I think it needs a lot of work, so let's get into this. Drop a like if you enjoy this one, a dislike if you didn't, and subscribe to stay up to date with all my videos. Let's start. Alright, so we had Phase 1 of the PTS, and my biggest issue was the cost to upgrade your gear. This was addressed in the patch notes of Phase 2, but no changes were made. They were hoping to get more feedback in respect to that, and my feedback and my opinion on that has not changed. Up to grade 10, the resource costs are actually okay. The most you're going to pay per grade is 500 printer filament, and that's for skills only, 500 protective fabric or receiver components, 375 blue and 375 green resources. The type is dependent on whether it's an armor piece, it's a weapon, or it's a skill. Now, whilst I'd rather not be farming, running around control points, getting materials, a lot of these materials that you're going to need in order to upgrade to level 10 are going to naturally come just as you play through Season 9 and you'll messing around with the content. So I'm actually okay with this. It will kind of just happen in the background in many ways. Now after grade 10 things go a bit crazy and this is where some serious work I feel needs to be done. Now in order to achieve a level 20 grade, which is the maximum level, you're going to need 165 shade calibration resources, 480 field recon data, and 110 exotic components. Now someone did the maths, and with Countdown being the only reliable source of exotic components, with the new exotic cache, being able to go in there, get the exotic cache and then break down those exotics for those exotic components, it's going to take around 110 hours of Countdown gameplay in order to upgrade one item or skill variant if the current costs were to go live. These costs, they're insane, and I'm not lying guys, that's 110 exotic components per item, per skill variant, and it's going to take approximately 1 hour of Countdown gameplay in order to get one exotic cache. So there you go. Massive are going to have to make serious changes to these costs, because they're just crazy at the moment. And I suspect a lot like the optimization station when that went live, with those crazy resource costs, Massive, they will make changes. They're going to have to make them either more obtainable, or they're just going to have to reduce them drastically. Otherwise people are just not going to interact with the system. And one of the questions that I want to ask guys is what is this for? The casual player, they're going to get to level 10 and then that will be them done, because they don't need that extra 10% weapon damage or that 10% armor. The hardcore players are already clearing the most difficult content with ease, so why would they bother investing 110 hours for an extra 1% more power when they don't need it? And this kind of goes into my other point that I want to talk about next, and that is, what is the point of the expertise system? Now I don't want this to come across in a negative way, I'm simply asking the question here. I know why Massive have made this system. They knew that the outrage that would ensue if they increased the gear level beyond 40, so they decided to make a system that allows players to feel a sense of progression, which makes total sense, and I'm happy they chose to do it this way. It means that all the gear we've accumulated over the years did not just become redundant because we've had a level increase. Now I personally wouldn't have minded a system like Destiny where you could infuse the items to the new higher level, but I think their idea here works. With that said, when the hardest content in the game is already being completed by solo players and then teams are walking all over legendary difficulty, what's the point in having an extra 20% more damage? Why do we need more armor or more skill output? the Shade Watch already had us feel more powerful and made content easier, and this just adds even more power to our arsenal. For the casual player, I can see how this might prove beneficial, I suppose, to them, as that extra 20% more power could be the difference between playing on challenging or heroic difficulty. But casual players are playing casually. Generally speaking, they're not trying to beat the hardest content, they're not trying to move up in difficulty. I'm just a bit lost on why we have this system if there's no incentive to interact with it. And so for me, I think Massive really need to address the reason why we should be using this new system, because I'm not sure there's much of a reason right now. And I felt the same way about the Shade Watch, to be honest, and this again is just another layer on top of that. We're going to be even more powerful with no incentive to use it. Alright guys, it's not all doom and gloom, so I'm going to get on to maybe a more positive note as soon as I get this part out of the way. One thing I hadn't noticed until recently was just how unrewarding the armor percentage increase is with the expertise system. At first, I think we all thought this was a 20% increase in armor for every level 20 gear item that you had on, so the maximum being 120%. I even believe I even said that in my first review of the expertise system from Phase 1. So in that review, I said it was, very generous. My concern was we were entering a world like before, where every agent could have high armor, strong damage, and good skills. Something the devs made a big deal about moving away from, where an agent was basically good at everything. Plus, of course, we'd be a lot more powerful than we already are, which goes back to the point I made earlier about the point of all of this. In actuality, it's not 20% per item, but 20% overall, meaning that if I run a DPS build with 700k armor and invest hundreds of exotic components and thousands of other resources into my gear, which would take me hundreds if not thousands of hours to do right now, I will get an extra 140k armor, which on any difficulty in the game would be erased with one NPC bullet. If you're on heroic, one NPC bullet is doing 1,000,000 damage. This is incredibly stingy, and Massive need to reward our time investment. Otherwise, again, what is the point? Okay, so I said it's not all doom and gloom, and I do mean that. The biggest issue right now is cost and incentive. If we are going to put in hundreds of hours to this system, it needs to feel rewarding. 20% extra damage I feel is acceptable. The skill increase as well is acceptable, but armor needs a look at. Aside from our agents themselves, I've said this many times before, there needs to be a new difficulty above legendary. Let's just call it legendary plus. With hardcore teams destroying endgame content in minutes right now, there needs to be a level of difficulty that will require that extra bit of power in order for teams to be successful, and I think players who are successful need to be rewarded for it too, with maybe some kind of emblem, vanity items, whatever that might be. And I say that as someone who will likely never achieve that kind of status, but understands the need to incentivize not only the casual audience but the hardcore audience as well. For casual players, beyond level 10, there is no incentive to go any higher, so I would consider tying some kind of vanity items or something to the completion of a grade 20 item. Getting to grade 20 on any item is not difficult, but extremely time consuming right now, so it gives something for casual players to chase without the requirement of being skillful. Massive have to reduce the material costs, and I think this will greatly increase the appeal of the expertise system beyond grade 10. The other thing, and this goes back to my feedback from Phase 1, I think we need more options beyond weapon damage, armor, and skill damage, etc. Let us choose what we want for our builds. For example, reload speed can make a huge difference with damage builds, so let that be an option we can choose over weapon damage. We need more choices, as this will greatly increase the build diversity and appeal to both the casual and hardcore audience. People are going to be more inclined to get up to that grade 20 or increase those grades if they know it's going to increase their build diversity. The expertise system, I think, is a good starting point and is a good base to build from. So what we need is Massive to build from it or build on top of it. This could be a good system. It could be a great system, but it needs more time in the oven. If Mass Effect can address the cost of upgrading and then provide some meaningful incentive for the whole community to interact with it, then I think that you're 90% of the way there. With the specialization rework being pushed back, I would hope that Massive can really get their teeth into making the system the best it could be, and I do have faith they will do that. So fingers crossed all of this will happen, or most of it will happen, before it goes live. That's it for today's video, everyone. I hope this didn't come across in a negative way. It wasn't meant to be. It's meant to be constructive feedback. I obviously want the best out of this game as possible, and I do feel the expertise system needs the most amount of work out of everything that we've received of the PTS so far, so I am going to be the most critical about this particular system. But like I said, it has a good foundation, and I do feel as though with a bit of work, I feel like it could be a good system in the future. Thanks very much if you stuck around until the end. I really appreciate all of your support. If you never want to miss a video, then please make sure your notifications are turned on. I am hoping to go over each aspect of Phase 2 of the PTS with its own dedicated video, so expect more to come. Until the next one, Epic out.